This is the Weber Go Anywhere. This is the Cobb Barbecue. If you'd like to learn how to set this up, how to use all the different vents, what fuels to use and what fuels that you need to avoid if you're buying charcoal in the supermarket, then stay tuned, because this is episode 2 of my ChefCampers Campervan Cookery School, where I teach you all the basics, everything that you need to learn in order to cook fantastic meals. I'm then going to share with you a very simple but delicious recipe. So stay tuned, because we are about to go into the world of barbecue, and this should be exciting. My name is Michael Roberts, I'm the Chef Camper, and now you can be one too. Let's go. In episode 1, we discussed flavours, the 5 key flavours that you need to know, and everything I pack in the pantry and what you should pack in yours. But in this episode, we're purely going to talk about barbecue. Now, I could talk for hours and hours, even days, about barbecue, and there are lots of people out there with lots of knowledge, lots of different opinions. There's also an element of snobbery in the barbecue world, but in true Chef Camper style, we are just going to ignore everybody else and just go for it. I think the important thing that you need to remember about barbecue food is that, like we said in episode 1, you want to create a good meal. So you can get distracted by the different techniques and the different things you can do in barbecue and create great food, but it could damage a great meal if you're not careful. Now for this episode, I'm going to put away the Cobb. Don't cry, everybody. I'm not going to cry. I do love this thing, but I think it'll be easier for me to explain barbecue with the Weber Go Anywhere. So let me do that. So this is the Weber Go Anywhere, and for me, this is the perfect barbecue to share with you the basic principles and the concepts of barbecue. So let's start talking about fuels. You can get charcoal, which is made from wood that's then been extinguished, and it comes in black lumps like this. There are loads of different types of charcoal. There are charcoal from different suppliers, a charcoal from different types of wood, hardwood, softwood, charcoal that burns hot and longer, charcoal that burns very hot to begin with, but then runs out in half an hour. You've got to find a good local supplier of charcoal. If you can't get that, then there are a few charcoal brands that you can buy, such as Big K or restaurant grade, which don't contain additives. Now, if you end up panicking and buying charcoal from the petrol station or from the supermarket, there's a good chance it might be self-igniting charcoal or self-lighting charcoal. Do not touch that stuff. It's full of chemicals. It's full of stuff to make it go on fire. And those chemicals then get on your food. You inhale them, you smell them. It's not very nice. Second type of fuel you can use is briquettes, which are these things. Now you'll see these in the supermarkets and at the petrol stations, but you'll also see these at the garden centres or online. Now, like charcoal, you want to get ones that are made of natural substances. Offcuts of wood, that sort of thing. Sometimes they make them out of coconut shell, that sort of stuff. Completely natural. Now, if you get the cheap ones or the ones at the supermarkets or petrol stations, there's a good chance that these are going to be filled with glue, additives, and all sorts of stuff to bind it all together and to make them burn and to slow down them burning as well. They're quite dense, you see. Now, if you cook on those, you're going to be getting a horrible flavour. You're going to be getting all of that paraffin smell. It's not very nice. So, 2 types of fuel, charcoal and briquettes. Buy natural, buy good quality. Don't be tempted by anything cheap and nasty. Is that simple? I think so. We can talk. If you've got any more questions about briquettes or charcoal, drop them below and I will offer you some advice and guidance on it. But for now, let's just move on. Now, to get the charcoal or the briquettes ignited, we need fire lighters. You can either have natural fire lighters, which are these, just off shavings coated with a little bit of natural wax, or you can go for those white cubes, which are full of chemicals and full of all sorts of stuff, which are basically lighter fluid, or the gel lighter fluids. You can go for them. My advice, always, always, always go natural. If you start using those white cubes or fire lighter fluid, first of all, they give off a horrible smell, they taint the food, and if you then handle them, you've got to be very, very careful, because if you touch them and then start touching any food, just vegetables or anything, you're then going to contaminate it and people are going to get sick and ill. So stick natural all the way, baby. Right, now that we've discussed fuels, what to buy, what not to buy, let's talk about the 2 types of kind of barbecue and how you approach it. I'm going to try and simplify this because there's actually more than 2 types, but to get us started, we just need to know the basics. Number 1, direct grilling. This is probably the sort of barbecue you've done at home or at a friend's house or whatever. You get a barbecue, you fill it with charcoal or briquettes, you put your grill on top, and then you flip your kebabs, your burgers, your sausages, your vegetables or whatever, and you just keep flipping them. It's a great time, you have some beers, you enjoy yourself. It generally cooks things fast and it's hot on the outside, but you run the risk of things being raw on the inside, which is why chicken got a bad name. So if you've ever, if you've ever put your chicken in the oven at home before you put it on the barbecue, then that's the sort of problem that I want to resolve for you today. You don't need to do that, and let me explain why. Because category 1 cooks everything hot and fast on the outside. It's like using the grill in your oven or the frying pan on your hob. Category 2 is offset cooking or indirect grilling. And this is very similar to your oven at home. So you can actually turn this into an oven. And that for me is when barbecue really opens up, because then you can add wood chips and create smoke in your oven, which you can't do in your house without setting off the fire alarms. And you can also lower the temperature and cook things really low and slow. You can have a higher temperature and roast. You can do all sorts of stuff. You can bake bread, bake cakes on a barbecue if you know how to set it up properly. So let me talk to you about how we set it up properly. If you've ever wondered what these vents do on your barbecue, well, I'm about to explain that to you today. So you're going to learn something right now. So we have vents because if you've ever cooked on a campfire, you know you need 3 things, the pyramid of fire. You need ignition, you need fuel, and you need oxygen. We have our ignition, which is the fire lighter. We have our fuel, which is the charcoal. So the third thing we need is oxygen, which is air coming in to the barbecue. The more air and oxygen you put into the barbecue, the hotter it will be. So how do we set up the barbecue for indirect grilling? Well, it's quite straightforward actually. Direct grilling, we fill the whole bucket with charcoal all the way across the bottom. For indirect grilling or offset cooking, we want charcoal on one side. So we're not going to put loads of charcoal all across the bottom, we're just going to have it on one side. And then what we're going to do is put the lid on. Now the beauty of this is that it's now turning into an oven because the charcoal is down here, the heat is coming up, it's rising, it's hitting the lid, and then it's kind of just staying in the barbecue. But what we can do is control the airflow a little bit more to give us a more consistent heat. So what we're going to do is close the vent on this side, and we're going to turn it and just close it fully. We're then going to keep this side, let's put it in the half position. Now this is almost like the oven dial that you have in your kitchen. If you turn it open so it's fully open, it's going to be a really hot temperature. If you close it down to almost shut, it's going to be a low temperature. And that's how you control the heat of your barbecue. My barbecue is lit. I've used natural fire lighters, natural charcoal, and I've set it up on one side of the barbecue. We leave the lid off, and I'm going to leave the cooking grid off just for now, and I'm just going to let that cook. And when the charcoal is, grey like everybody says, that's when it's going to be ready to cook on. So you've got a little bit of time now to prepare your ingredients and all that sort of stuff. But what I like to do at this moment is really just stand by it and look at it. And I like to take in what we're about to do. I like to take in the fact that we're about to have a meal, and this for me is a scent, it's a smoke signal letting people know that we're about to start cooking. It's a time when we might open up drinks, we might set the table, we might get the ingredients out, but this is a nice part of the experience for me. So take a moment to enjoy it. This recipe is a banger. Trust me, it's very simple, very easy with the new skills that hopefully you've just picked up. And when you serve it out on the plate, it's going to be effortless cooking. Everything we spoke about in episode 1 about making it a good meal, this is just a recipe that takes all of that advice on board. It hits the 5 key flavor profiles I spoke about in episode 1, and it's just a great dish. Right, duck legs. We're going to be roasting duck legs in an offset position. We're not going to put it directly over the charcoal because the fat is just going to melt. It's going to go on fire. It's going to cook the outside. The inside's going to be raw. It's no good. We want to cook it in offset like you'd roast it in an oven. The skin should go a little bit crispy and inside is just going to cook beautifully. Now to serve with this roast duck, I want to put some tasty treats with it. And because we're in the summer season, I thought, let's put something vibrant. Let's hit the 5 key flavor profiles. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to char some fennel directly over the charcoal. I'm going to char some baby gem lettuce. Endives or chicory in the UK would be a better selection, but I couldn't get that, so I've gone with baby gem lettuce. I'm then going to have some orange segments on there with rosemary and some diced red onion. And another sneaky little thing is this sweet potato. I'm going to chop this up. I'm going to put this under the duck legs. So when the fat drips off the duck legs and falls onto the sweet potato, it's going to be roasting in duck fat. This is going to be delicious. So I'm just going to get started because I'm too excited now. I've said it out aloud. So let's get going. The first job I'm going to do is get my duck legs on. So I want to get them on first. But what I want to do is capture that duck fat into a tray underneath the duck. And in that tray, I'm going to put the sweet potatoes. So what I've done is I've taken the barbecue grill off the top. I'm going to pop this tray in, and it's going to be like a drip tray. So my sweet potato is now in that drip tray. I'm going to get the barbecue grate. I'm going to put that back onto the barbecue. And now I've already seasoned my duck. I'm just going to pop that over the sweet potatoes. The duck is now in the offset position. So what we need to do is close the lid. That's it. I've just put the duck legs on and I've just thought to myself, why not add a little bit more flavour? Now I can do a whole episode on smoking and I'll talk about it in a lot more detail, but I'll just briefly say this to you. If you see some smoked chips in the garden centre or something like that, they come in all shapes and sizes. I've got quite small ones. I like little shredded, little diced smoking chips. These give off a lot of smoke straight away. And for this dish, I just want to give it a load of smoke at the beginning, let the meat absorb it. Right, I'm going to put these smoked chips just over the charcoal. And they've just been soaked in a little bit of water. We'll just do that and now, we need to get the lid on pretty quick. And now we're going to start getting a load of smoke come through the barbecue and then come across the duck and then come out the vent. This is just flavour boosting the duck. You don't have to do this. And if you haven't got the smoked chips, don't worry. But for me, if you can get some cherry smoked chips, that would be the best way to smoke it. But let's not get too complicated. Right, let's let that rest. Let's prepare what we think will be the side salad now, Steph. Oh, look, the smoke's coming out already. Choo-choo! Right, I finally diced my red onion into a dish. I'm now going to take the skin of this orange and cut the segments out. I'm going to take the bottom off. I'm going to take the top off. Cut around the orange. Like so. We can now cut out the segments of the orange. So for that, I'm going to get the old Vicky Knox knife, cut down the line. There we go, orange segment. I've cut my orange segments and I've just put them in a bowl with that diced onion. But the leftover, the centre of the orange, I'm now just going to squeeze into another dish. Squeeze any of that oh God. Squeeze any of that excess juice. Oh, it's coming everywhere. Try your best to get it in the dish, all right? We're going to squeeze the orange into the dish. Now, you're probably going to get more juice than I will because you would have learned from my mistake. I don't know why I didn't realise that was going to happen, but there we go. So, do you know what? I have got some orange juice in the bottom there. Go on, get a close-up of that, Steph, just so people know. Okay. Then we're going to get the olive oil. Now, if you remember episode 1, we say olive oil's got kind of a bitter flavour to it. So we're going to add equal parts olive oil, I'd say. And then next, we're going to add a little bit of salt into this dressing. 2 pinches of salt. I'm going to wipe my hands on my tea towel. It's orange, so don't be offended if I wipe it on a tea towel. It's fine. It's actually a bit like orange fresh hand wash, isn't it? Delicious. I don't know if you can see this, but Rupert is right at my feet here. Look, he's not messing around. Look at him. He's getting in on the duck. Okay, right, back to the dressing. We've got some olive oil in there. We've got some orange juice in there. We're now going to get some rosemary. This is like Sevilla, or is it Seville? But how do you pronounce it? Sevilla? Sevilla. This is like a Sevilla sort of salad, isn't it, on the side we're doing here. So we're going to get some rosemary, and I'm just going to finely like slice it. And again, don't worry, you want fresh rosemary for this. Don't be using that dry jar stuff. This is all about adding good punch of flavour to it. And if you've got some mustard, you could pop mustard in there, but I'm going to just keep it quite light and fresh, I think. Now this is going to serve two purposes in this recipe. We're going to use it to kind of dress the salad a little bit, but we're also going to drizzle it on the centre of the fennel and the baby gem lettuce when we put it on the charcoal. So it's just going to add flavour to all the vegetables as well. So it's going to be basically a bit of a marinade for our vegetables that we're preparing here. Oh, that's lovely. In fact, it's just very simple, isn't it? Rosemary, olive oil, and freshly squeezed orange. But that's just going to be a nice little bit of salt in there as well. That's just going to be a nice little dressing. But I think it just needs just something a little bit more acidity. So do you remember I said in episode 1 I use red wine vinegar quite a lot? Well, I'm about to use it now. Just add a little bit more to that, I think. I'm just going to add a little dash of this to it because I just think it will give it a nice little kick. Only a little bit. Give it a little move around. Now, because it's just me and Steph here, I can put my fingers in the food. That's it. Lovely, balanced. Maybe some mustard if you want some mustard in there, but I don't want to overpower the flavour of a baby gem lettuce too much. It's quite delicate as it is. Next up in the recipe is the fennel. Now the fennel I can do two ways. I can either shred it really thin, add it with some of that marinade and the vinaigrette and just let it be fresh and in the salad. But I've got some rocket here and I think that's going to be the fresh peppery element. So the barbecue is on, the charcoals are just roasting. Let's char the fennel. If you've never had fennel, this is a great way to taste it. If you don't like fennel, this is a great way to taste it. If you're not sure how to cook fennel, then watch this. When you're buying a fennel, look for a fennel that feels dense and heavy. If it doesn't feel dense and heavy, it's dried out. If it's dense and heavy, it's still got its moisture in. It's going to be nicer, creamier, fresher. Now, you're going to say to me, well, what's heavy for a fennel if I've never picked one up? We'll pick up 5 and then choose the one that looks the freshest and the heaviest, and that's the fennel that you pick. I'm just going to trim off these little edges because these have been cut before and they're going to be a little bit dry and it's going to be a bit like straw. So I'm just going to take those little edges off, not much, and we're just going to cut it into big chunks. Now, you kind of want to look at the fennel and have a look at where the roots are coming out and maybe cut between those shoots or roots or whatever you'd say. But here we go. I mean, that's quite thick, but I'm not bothered. That one's quite thick, but I'm not bothered. And then these nice little pieces here. So these are going to go directly over the charcoal. The dressing that we made with the orange, rosemary and red wine vinaigrette, I'm just going to drizzle a little bit over that fennel. I put a little bit of salt on there as well, just to season it a little bit. So when it goes onto the charcoal, it's just going to go boom and explode in flavour. Next up is the baby gem lettuce. Now, if you can get endives or chicory, as we'd say in the UK, they would probably be better, but they're not really in the supermarkets all the time and they're quite hard to get hold of sometimes. So baby gem lettuce I think is a good alternative for now. It's not as nice, but it will do and it will give us that bitter element that we want. So we're going to get the baby gem lettuce. I'm going to cut it in half. And I think we'll cut it into quarters because it is quite big. We've left the root on because that will hold it together. And now we've got 4 beautiful pieces of baby gem lettuce. And again, same thing. We're going to line them up on our board. And we're just going to drizzle a little bit of this dressing over it. So it's got orange, olive oil, red wine vinegar, a little bit of salt and some rosemary. And we're just going to drizzle that into our vegetables. A little recap. The duck legs are in the offset position. Charcoal's on this side, duck legs are on this side, and the sweet potatoes are under them. They're having a duck fat shower at the moment. They're slowly cooking away with the duck fat dripping on top of them. It's there's a party going on in there, but if we look, we ain't cooking. If we're looking, we're not cooking, so we're just going to let that sit there. My barbecue's at 151 degrees centigrade. If I want that hotter, I open up this vent. If I want it colder, I close off the vent. All my vegetables are prepped and ready on the side. They're marinated in that marinade I've made. This is super simple, super easy. It's now time to clear down, get everything ready, maybe set the table, chat to the guests, find out what Steph's been getting up to this week, find out if Rupert is a good boy or a naughty boy, and if he gets some duck in this episode, and that's that. So keep it simple, keep it flavourful, easy. I told you Chef Campers was easy, super easy. You can do this. It's now time to check how the duck is doing. So I've got my thermapen, which link in the description below if you want to buy one of these. And we are actually, we're 66 degrees and we want it to hit like 72, 75. And I know if I take this off now, it's just gonna gently rise to that temperature. So I'm gonna say these are ready, but what I wanna do is just add a bit, the skin's like nice and crusty and it's gone hard. The potatoes under there look like they might need a little bit more time, but they look okay. What I'm gonna do is just finish off the duck, I think. This is great, this has worked out well. So I'm gonna lift them directly over to the charcoal. Now what we might find here is that some of the fat might drip down onto the charcoals and create a bit of a flame or smoke for us. So as you can see, I'm getting lots of flames now, which is exactly why we have to cook duck legs indirect. All of those flames will just char the outside and leave the centre raw. But as long as you work quick and you turn them over, you're okay. Now I've put the skin side down now, so we probably are going to have a nice little firework display in a minute. And what I'm going to do is take these off, lift the grill up, get the potatoes out and just get the potatoes on top so they're all easy to get to. I'll just keep turning this duck. It's just kind of blow torching it, and what that will do is put a bit of fat on the charcoal as well, so when I put everything else on, it's going to really give everything a nice char. Oh, look at this. I told you this was going to be delicious. Bring the potatoes up, and there's just loads of duck fat now in this tray with the potatoes, which we can use to baste them. And you'll see now that these are going to start flaring up a little bit as the duck fat hits the charcoal. My ducks are cooked, they're resting. My sweet potato is cooked and finished off and charred, they're resting. It's now time to go on with the fennel. So, fennel over the hot coals. And we do want to get some charring on this. I mean, don't be afraid to put some colour onto it, it's fine. It adds to the flavour. If you take it too much, it'll burn it, but we're just going to lightly char them. A couple of minutes each side. The pieces that are thick and part of the centre, they're going to take a bit longer, but we just keep moving them around and keep our eye on it. Now the little pieces of fennel, I would say, are kind of ready, so I'm just going to move them over to hang out with the sweet potatoes and the duck. The big pieces, I'm just going to keep turning, I think, because what I want to do, I want to keep them firm, but I want them almost, I want to be able to put a fork into them. So I've got my ducks, I've got my sweet potato, I've got the little pieces of fennel that I've moved away. The bigger pieces of fennel, I'm just going to put the root a little bit closer to the charcoal. And now it's time to finish off with the baby gem lettuce. So we're just going to put them on like so. The sweet baby gem lettuce isn't going to take long at all. We just want to get a little bit of char on the outside. So I'm just flipping my baby gem lettuce. I'm just looking for a little bit of black char on each side. These don't take long at all. But the thing to be wary of here is that because I'm using charcoal, a little bit of the barbecue is really hot and the other parts of it aren't so hot. So they're cooking at slightly different times, but that's okay. That's why we've got the tongs to keep moving them around. And actually, as I move them around now, I'm just going to hit them with a little bit of a flavour boost. So the marinade and the vinaigrette that we hit before, I'm now just going to drizzle a little bit over the lettuce. Actually over the fennel as well, and just get it all over there. And it will sizzle up a bit, and we're going to get a bit of smoke, but that's okay. But look at the colour and all the texture on this lettuce now. This is just going to be lots of flavour going on. We've got our fennel here, we've got our ducks over here. So I think now's a good time to plate up. If the wind doesn't blow it away, I might just put some rocket onto the board. I have got some more rocket, so I can pad it out if I need to. I'm then going to take the lettuce off and dart that around the board, like so. I'm just going to add the fennel in between. Now, it's now time for some of the stars of the show. Let's just put those duck pieces in here. Look at this, this is a feast. Okay, now we've got our oranges, haven't we? So we're gonna just pop some oranges in there. And then I'm gonna take just some red onions, and we're just gonna scatter the red onions around. And again, just let the fennel and let the lettuce just capture it. Oh, what a lovely dish this is. And then I added some, I'll add some of the dressing that we made. So this is, for me, just a perfect dish. If you want to get interested in barbecue, we've cooked the duck in the offset position, we've cooked the vegetables directly over the charcoal, so we've used both sides of the barbecue, and for me this is just a, look at that for a serving platter with charred fennel, charred baby gem. The duck has got crispy skin, but I know it's soft and juicy on the inside. I'm going to dig into this. Right, I've just tasted a little bit of the duck and tried a little bit of it before I completely destroy it. I just wanted to let you know that you're absolutely bonkers if you don't try this one. The duck is just, it's got those smoky flavours from the offset with the wood chips. The fennel just complements it, the sweetness of the oranges and the sweet potatoes, and then the acidic dressing, the bitterness of the, you know, the little gem lettuce. It's just got all of the flavour profiles that we spoke about in episode 1. And just to prove I'm not lying, what do you think, Roop? I think he'd like that. Now, in the next episode, I'm going to be cooking on open fire, a real passion of mine, and I'm going to get you started on cooking on campfires, how we build the fires, how we make the most of the fire, and how we cook something very, very dirty on the fire. That's my clue for the next episode. Thank you so much for watching this. Please leave me a comment below if you've enjoyed it or if you've got any questions. Check out my website and subscribe. I love doing this and I want to carry on doing it, so I really appreciate your support. Thank you very much. I'll see you soon.